Bring it in. This is like a tricapella. Where's my crew?
A tricapella?
I don't even know what that means. It works, though. You know what it meant when you didn't know what it means. Truth Nation, just getting warmed up here for your Thursday at 10, which you know means it's time for a little dose of the truth. We're getting local, actually, and we got industry-specific experts, domain experts, which means you're really good at securing URLs on GoDaddy.
.me.
.u. Truthfully, though, Truth Radio, ding, is that the housing market, gang, had some very interesting, it shifted when it should have shook, it upped when it should have downed, it downed when it should have righted. Craig, you're supposed to help me out with these old colloquialisms.
Oh, no.
It zigged when it should have zagged.
That's the only one I got in my repertoire.
So what we decided to do was take a little look back as we get into the holiday months here, figure out what lessons that we learned. What did we get wrong? What did we get right? And what can we all take away and move forward from as we move into the 2017? By the way, next segment coming up, and if you're catching this on the YouTubes, you'll be able to search for this 2017 bold predictions. We got some important stuff to make sure that is on your horizon if you're thinking about getting into or out of homes or secure yourself some financing in between. I'll tell you something, gang. I'll lead this off again. What I got right was I knew the rent pain was a coming. You know,
Nice, yeah.
It doesn't need any economical isms in order to kind of see how that whole thing was going to end up shaking out. You get that big squeeze from the lack of inventory. The prices continue to come up. We talked about last minute about the affordability index. There's only 3 things that are going to drive that conversation. It's how much money people are making. It's the available mortgage rate that you can borrow on. And then it's the prices of homes locally. Yep. And that trend was off the chains, white hot liquid magma, which meant that it was going to create a larger gap and barrier for people to be able to enter the market. And we already have rental inventory shortage already, so that was just a time bomb waiting to happen.
Yeah.
What we didn't possibly know, if we're being honest about it, was to what degree. I heard some people say, and I don't know if this was like local specific down at the beach where I was having this conversation, but rents were at 35-year highs.
Wow.
So what does that do, gang? Like break that down. So let's do it for both sides of the coin. Let's say you are trying to get into your first home, and let's say you're still stuck in the rental side of this, and you could even make an argument for the first time seller, right? So what's it do for those 3 groups categorically when rents are so high?
With rents being so high, that means more people are going to be interested in getting into the buying market. And I think that's part of the increased demand. It's not only the interest rates being low, but people who got out of a house for whatever reason in maybe 05, 06, 07 when we had the bubble bursting, you know, some of them probably were like, wow, you know, I could have stayed into that house and been back at parity to where the home values were before. And I think a lot of those people were also surprised that rents didn't adjust at all when they jumped out of the housing market, jumped into rentals. The economy's tanking and going down, and we saw a 50% reduction in home values in a lot of areas. But guess what happened to rents? Well, they did not go up. It was a steady climb through that entire period. So I think one thing that we walk away from is that you have more people that were in that renting market shift over and want to get back and put their name on something. So some of that demand is from the realization that my rent ain't going down anytime soon. If it wasn't dropping during the bad economy, it's not going down.
Yeah. How about the wait and see game? I mean, how many times do you talk to someone who says, prices are too high, rates are going to go down, I'm just going to wait? And man, I got a list of people that I pre-approved for this current environment 6 months ago, 12 months ago, and they said, I'm going to wait because rates are going to go down.
Yep.
They didn't. I'm going to wait because prices are going to go down. They didn't.
Yep.
And maybe they will be right at some point. But right now they're looking at prices.
But does history tell that story?
I mean, occasionally you see cycles, but, it's really hard to time those kind of things.
Well, you always see cycles. Let's call that spade the spade. And they historically have trended pretty consistently. The problem with that, though, playing that game, is the two variables that are totally outside of your control, which dominate. So outside of you and you making money and you having a job and you having a down payment, all stuff, is the prices as they do cycle up. They're not going to go back down to the referent or base point which they started from. Right. They're starting a new high. Right. They're cupping with handling as they continue to trend up. And secondly, good luck getting a 3.75 interest rate as we move into the future. I know we've said that before, but I mean,
that's the math that I used to do for people. I can show you how the lower interest rate with the higher purchase price actually benefits you versus the lower purchase price and the higher rate. And so the time to capture those things, the power of the money is where it's at.
We're trained as consumers to look at price.
Right.
Every single thing we do, whether it's a coat or an Amazon gift you're getting for the holidays or a house. But the reality is that when it comes to real estate, what you're really buying is a payment. You're not buying the purchase price, you're buying the payment. And so it's difficult. I know for a lot of folks that we help that are relocating from other areas, they look at the prices and it's like sticker shell shock, and it moves them into a state of immobilization. Right? I can't afford San Diego is the story they tell themselves. When they realize is that if you actually do the math at what the rates are trending right now, and you could even sit down with your CPA and get real deep into like, okay, well, if it's my income, maybe if I deduct my mortgage interest, all that nonsense stuff that kind of goes along with it. Right now, with rents where they are, a lot of folks that we're sitting down and talking with are looking at an increase in their next lease signing that's potentially equal to, if not even some instances greater than what their entry-level price on a home would be.
Yeah. Yep. Which is actually something interesting that I think has changed over time for me, is that you used to have to do the math and say, oh, well, buying will eventually offset the cost of renting. And I can't tell you how many people I've recently done the discussion with where we do the payment, we pre-approve them, and they go, man, that's less than I'm paying in rent. I can't believe how many times I'm having that conversation right now.
Well, I got a stat to back it up. So right now, more than 85% of U.S. markets have rents that have exceeded 30% of their income.
Wow.
Okay. Now, when you go to qualify for a mortgage, what's the maximum that Fannie allows you to borrow against your income anyway?
Yeah, I mean, so typically you're looking at about 45%, right?
Right, which is a little stone's throw from 30. So you can imagine in some of the hotter markets like San Diego, for example, or Los Angeles or San Francisco, that math gets blurry real quick.
Yep.
Right? So then it really comes down to down payment. Right? So if the rental math and the ownership math is like a push almost. Yeah. The barrier typically, if it's not something silly like credit or you're not knowing whether you're going to stay there for more than 5 years or whatever, is down payment. And this is another concern about why rents are so high, is it's eroding people's ability to save for that down payment.
Yep. Yeah. Well, what's cool is the programs that are available right now. And this is something that I would say that I feel like I got right, was a loosening of mortgage parameters over the year. We've seen markets yield to the idea that the tightening after the bubble, after the burst, has kind of loosened up a little bit. We see low down payment programs. We see down payment assistance stuff. Really, the barrier of down payment is less than it's been in a really long time. I mean, we're not back to, sign your name on a piece of paper and hand you a house, but it really is less of a barrier than it's ever been in terms of gift funds, down payment assistance, wonderful options for people with very low barriers. I mean, Craig gave a great example when he was laying that out earlier.
Yeah. I mean, the amount of leverage that you can get from a low down payment, and, if you want to go conventional financing, 5% down payment on a $400,000 home, you're looking at $20,000 just from a financial analysis perspective, an investment perspective. That's an incredible amount of leverage where you can buy an asset with only 5%. But on top of that, the thing is that a mortgage payment allows you to effectively lock in your rent. And then you don't have somebody telling you whether you can put a hole in the wall, where you can paint something, or what you can do with that property. We've seen rent rates increasing, and I know some property management companies that build this into their lease agreements with an annual increase of 5%.
Yeah.
So if you have a $2,000 rent payment, that's $100 a year that your rent is going to go up. So all of a sudden, in 5 years, you're looking at $2,500 a month in rent. So, and then on top of that, the amount of money, if you're starting off at $2,000, let's just say, okay, it doesn't increase at all. Well, that's $2,000 a month. Annual cost for rent, $24,000. You're not paying down principal amount on an asset that you own. You're not getting the tax deductibility of interest. You're not being able to write off the property tax expense on that. You're paying a grip.
Now, and there is still a contingent of folks that don't understand that. Like when you net out those two payments, they're not created equal. They're not just the whole amount that you're kicking on a monthly basis.
Yep.
I don't think that's so much the challenge as much as it is the down payment game.
Yeah.
Especially when you talk about prices being up, like we did in the last segment.
Right.
That is the corollary to how much you're going to have to come, how much ransom you have to bring to the table in order to get something here. So, Jeremy, what's the deal with down payment assistance right now?
So there are some products out there that are pretty attractive, and one of the challenges in this market becomes making sure that you have all your ducks in a row. So from the real estate side, from the side that you guys represent, you want a buyer who has everything ready to rock, because when you approach the seller, you're going to say, look, we got a guy who has, or a family that has all these things they need to accomplish in the purchase transaction. We don't want that to be a problem or a perceived challenge for the seller. You want them to be ready. And so all the time I get a call from someone who says, I'm in contract, I'm looking to shop my mortgage.
Right.
It's crazy to do that at the last minute. Get prepared early. Whether it's us at the Greenhouse Group or anybody else, make sure that you've done your due diligence with your mortgage, especially if you're looking to use down payment assistance program. So let me give you an example. We have a product with 1.5% down. You pair it with an FHA program. You can simply have a very, very low down payment. There's not a lot of moving parts, and it's not going to get in the way of your purchase transaction. Super easy. But of course, nothing is for free. So that's going to come at an expense, and you have to be prepared to do the math and make sure it's suitable for you. And that takes a little bit of advanced planning.
Another thing that's also putting pressure on the rents is that the sellers, they have to oftentimes sell their home, and then they get into the rental market because they can't find a replacement property because the inventory is so tight. So that's a category that we usually don't see in a normal market. Normally, once you become a homeowner, you stay in home ownership capacity and you leave that inventory for the renters until they're going to get there. And the sellers a lot of times are taking a step backwards.
Yeah.
Not even because they want to, but because they have to. And they're trying to bide some time to be able to get. So one thing that we did get right also is the COP. We saw the return of the contingent on purchase. Everybody basically holding on to that e-brake, that OS handle, to make sure that if they were going to sell their property, they had better found a replacement one in order to do that, so that they're not stuck out on the street and no home to show for it, right? So,
yeah, absolutely. And also negotiating rent backs into a contract. Was a big thing this year.
Look at Craig getting all strategy on us right now.
I think he had that one written down.
Yeah, Craig, they got to pay for that. As a matter of fact, that's something that you want to learn more about. Check Craig out. He's got a really funny headshot over at thegreenhousegroupinc.com/Craig. And Jeremy, you shouldn't laugh.
It's the camera angle.
There's some silly ones of you over at thegreenhousegroupinc.com/Jeremy. And gang, we're just getting warmed up on this. So we're going to get you all caught up in a little sports minute from our buddies over at the CBS. And then when we come back, the boldest predictions for real estate 2017. You're not going to miss this.